You'd be shocked at how often we have countless anecdotes where people are asking, can I speak to Mia? She was so amazing. And it turns out Mia was actually, the AI that they were conversing with.
The future of conversational AI for car dealerships is being developed in Georgia, but not the Georgia you're thinking of. And it's already making a huge impact on how cars get sold here in America. Today, I'm speaking with Devin Daly, CEO of Impel, a digital engagement platform that helps dealers communicate with customers using artificial intelligence. We discuss raising $130 million to create the next generation of automotive chatbots, what inspired the company's early pivot from the fashion industry into the automotive world, the challenge of training ChatGPT to tell the truth, and much more. Don't forget to click subscribe so you never miss an episode.
What's up, everyone? This is Car Dealership Guy. You're listening to the Car Dealership Guy podcast, which is my effort to give you access to the most unbiased and transparent insights into the car market.
Well, before we get into the show, this episode is brought to you by Private Auto, the first transactional marketplace that enables a safe and secure way to buy and sell vehicles privately. Private Auto provides a self-service platform that removes the middleman and uses proprietary banking technology. This allows buyers and sellers to safely complete a private party sale on their own at any time. They've thought of it all. Identity verification to avoid scams, an e-bill of sale to simplify the paperwork, instant transfer of money between buyers and sellers, and so much more. Learn more at privateauto.com and use code CDG to list your car for free. This episode is also brought to you by Valvoline. You might know Valvoline is the original motor oil. After all, they've been at it since 1866. But to their dealership customers, there's so much more. When you partner with Valvoline, your dealership not only gets access to legendary Valvoline products, but also to their customer business solutions, marketing resources, consumer promotions, and other programs that go beyond the traditional supplier partnership. Valvoline can help you drive your service department by streamlining operations and increasing revenue with hands-on technician and sales advisor training, state-of-the-art service lane technology, and a robust preventative maintenance chemical program. They even have programs to help you sell more cars and increase trade-ins. What other fixed ops vendor can say that? So what's all this mean for you? Fewer vendors, more value, and a brand your customers know and trust. Valvoline is reinventing how a supplier partners with the dealership. For more information about how Valvoline can become your ultimate fixed ops partner, visit partner.valvoline.com or click the link in the show notes below.
So started my career in sort of traditional Wall Street fashion, started at Merrill Lynch in their technology M&A division, did the sort of traditional 2-year stint there, and then moved into a private equity role at a company called Cambridge Associates. And I was on their vertical software team, investing in vertical software as a service businesses. Really fell in love with, the model of SaaS in that it was predictable, the operating leverage that you're able to gain in a software as a service business. And the way I came up with the idea for what became Impel is we had invested in a bunch of what I would call e-commerce enablement products. So we invested in like a recommendation engine for e-commerce. We invested in a chat product for e-commerce. And what I realized was these e-commerce enablement products had really fast growth, great CSI scores, great gross retention rates. All the levers or KPIs you look for were stronger within that subset of our portfolio. When I started to peel back the onion to understand why that was, it was because they had such a demonstrable ROI case. If you're a chat product that plugs into Louis Vuitton, you can do the algebra that you took their conversion rate from 2% to 2.4%, and that yielded Louis Vuitton $100,000 in gross profit, for instance. So that's when we started racking our brain for what's the next thing in this e-commerce evolution, and came up with 360 imaging, immersive 360 views of products were a tried and true way to improve e-commerce conversion, but there wasn't really an out-of-the-box solution to do that at scale. So that's what we set out to do, initially targeting the fashion industry.
Oh, so you were going fashion first. Now, what led you to taking this to automotive? Like, when did you discover that opportunity?
Yeah, great question. So we launched the business focused on fashion in 2014. We were, based in Manhattan at the time. And I hired a gentleman from Reynolds and Reynolds, obviously one of the large automotive incumbent vendors. And when he changed his LinkedIn, I hired him to work on the fashion business. But when he changed his LinkedIn profile, one of his dealer customers reached out to him and said, I see what you guys are doing in fashion. Is it possible that you can do this for cars? And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was St. Patrick's Day 2015. He and I went out to this guy's dealership, and 13 minutes later, the guy signed a contract for the highest contract value in the company's history for his dealership group, sort of centered in the Northeast. And, you juxtapose that with selling into fashion, where you've got four different ad agencies vying for their own interest before you make a change to Louis Vuitton's website. And we kind of knew we were onto something. We straddled both industries for 6 months. And then in late 2015, decided to focus purely on automotive.
Incredible. So, and then what was that initial insight, right? So you build this spin car tool at the time, right? Carvana had this already, if I remember correctly. And I remember very vividly, right? I didn't set up Get a Car yet until like 2018, but I just remember very vividly doing research on their booths. And I mean, Carvana's booths were no, cheap thing. I mean, they spent hundreds of thousands on these booths. It was just really, really custom made. And so for you, when was that point for you? Did you reach that point when you were like, wow, this is a really, really big opportunity here, arguably, can, arm the rebels, quote unquote, right? To let dealers sort of have the same type of, experience or on a vehicle detail page on their website as a Carvana. When was that for you?
Yeah, great question. So again, we initially launched in fashion, so we weren't super aware of Carvana. Once we started pivoting into automotive and started signing up dealers, we became aware. And you're exactly right. I think it was like $750,000, for each of those Carvana booth installations, and that was our whole thesis, right? Is we want to democratize this type of technology and this type of experience to every mom and pop dealer, as the auto industry is sort of, on the precipice of this kind of e-commerce evolution, if you will. So, that was kind of in that, mid 2015 timeframe. And, I think that's what made us realize we should focus purely on automotive, and that, it's a massive industry. And it was, one of the last sectors to really experience full kind of e-commerce transformation.
In terms of entrepreneurship in general, was this like a bizarre kind of world for you? I mean, did you come from an entrepreneurial family? You were clearly in investment banking, so this is, it's obviously a shift. So, what was that shift like for you?
Certainly didn't come from an entrepreneurial family, came from a family of, risk averse medical professionals. And, to your point, I was on that Wall Street path of, as they call it, the adage was seven figures in 7 years. So when I, struck out to start my own company, people thought I was crazy. That said, I always felt like I wanted to move faster, that my career was allowing and make an impact, and, was held back a little bit by the administration bureaucracy of working in large financial institutions. So 2014 is when I decided to strike out on my own.
So now take us through the evolution of your company. Because again, I see your name, your company, and I still think of Spin Car because that's just what I was familiar with early on in the dealership days. I just remember using this. So today you do a lot more. Walk us before we get into the business. I want to understand the evolution of your company as an entrepreneur, right? From being just a car kind of spin software for dealers so that people can get that Carvana experience to everything you do today, which we'll get into. Tell us about that evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, started in fashion in kind of 2014, March of 2015, sold and onboarded our first dealership, Q4 of 15. We started letting our retail contracts expire. That's when we rebranded the company to Spin Car, and we were fully focused, on the auto industry at that point. To your point, the initial product line was really focused on just merchandising the vehicle, and again, providing that virtual immersive tour of a vehicle. We realized the second pain point, was related to feature and F&I and option merchandising, in that, vehicles are increasingly complex. It's increasingly difficult for somebody to understand, the BMW cruise control versus lane keeping assist on the Mercedes. And so we built out products that helped merchandise features as well as F&I solutions on a dealer's website. It was at that time, that I think we realized we have this very valuable data exhaust coming out of our merchandising products. Again, because we deliver that rich viewing experience, it allows us to glean information about, maybe Devin's a performance buyer because he clicked on the engine hotspot photo 17 times and the turbocharger video 9 times.
Interesting.
Performance spec sheet
Okay.
7 times. And then that data is then used to custom tailor our AI responses. So that was really when we sort of came up with this AI thesis, as we realized this exhaust data can power kind of next level personalization. And so came up with this thesis around artificial intelligence in the auto industry. And we did 2 acquisitions in that space long before the hype of GPT. And that's really, I think, shifted the center of gravity of the business towards AI.
That is very interesting. And I never considered that. So tell us more about that, right? you're able to see, of course, the hot spots. How have you used that information? Like, how are dealers and just the industry, how is it using that information?
The first real use case of that data is in retargeting ad units. So that was the first kind of activation is, if Yossi and Devin are looking at the same 5 series, Devin exhibits a performance-centric behavior like I just described, whereas Yossi clicks on safety features like the overhead airbag feature or the IAHS safety rating sheet. If we leave the site and we are then retargeted with that same 5 series, there would be an additional level of tailoring. So I would get performance-centric creative that might have 455 horsepower highlighted within the ad unit, whereas Yossi may get, the IAHS safety rating embedded into that ad unit. We find by adding that additional level of tailoring, click-through rates are increased pretty dramatically. Over the last couple of years, we've started also activating that through our AI communication platform. So same exact situation. If I look at performance-centric features, Yossi looks at safety-centric features. If we both submit leads or we engage with an AI-based chatbot in that site, asking, is this vehicle available? The AI will respond confirming availability of that vehicle, but it will also then, maybe inject something about performance or safety. Yes, the 5 series available. By the way, did you happen to notice this is the M package with 455 horsepower, for instance?
So do you think that today with your technology and generally speaking, where our industry is headed, do you think that dealers can really match that Carvana, merchandising experience online? Do you where are the biggest gaps? How do you think about that?
Yeah, we do. Now with the advances that have happened with computer vision and artificial intelligence background improvement and 3D backgrounding and things of that nature, absolutely. We recently launched a product called Virtual Booth that is designed to do exactly that, which is allow a dealership to shoot in various conditions outside on their lot, and then artificial intelligence and computer vision does all of that improvement, adjusts the sharpness, brightness, of the vehicle, as well as does image segmentation to remove the background and add an enhanced booth-like experience. Absolutely.
I want to take a step back. You're offering various merchandising products, but what are in general where's your company headed, right? What are you offering today? And then when you think about the evolution of the car dealership, right? What are you building in order to help car dealers keep evolving?
Yep. So merchandising is still a huge part of our business. And again, that's really focused on providing an immersive online experience that, inspires confidence and trust remotely before somebody actually physically enters the dealership. So again, that's still, the strong majority of our business. That said, over the last couple of years, we've done 2 acquisitions in the artificial intelligence space and have built out several additional AI activations. I think fundamentally, our thesis is that dealerships today are massively human capital intensive. The average Main Street mom and pop dealership has 150 employees, for instance. And, it's our belief that given margin pressure, given OEM starting to go direct to consumer, rising interest rates, new entrants and channels in the market, then over the next 3 to 5 years, we will see dealerships become less human capital intensive and more AI and automation enabled. And really our vision, or what we're building towards, is AI managing the entire life cycle, from selling the vehicle to doing AI CSI surveying to selling F&I and accessory products post-purchase, to continuing to get somebody back in to service their vehicle and build that bond of service loyalty, and then eventually using AI to actually acquire that vehicle, know when somebody's likely to sell that vehicle back based on driving habits or DMS data.
You seem to have a pretty strong opinion here, right? That AI will sort of infiltrate every part of the sales process. And so how do you respond to the people that say, no, I want to talk to a human. I don't want, to deal with a robot when I'm making arguably the second largest purchase I'm going to be making in my lifetime. After a home, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I would say that people need to really have a hard look at the conversation quality that large language models have unlocked. I think a lot of that thinking is probably anchored around 5 or 7-year-old AI experiences. The conversation quality with LLMs is an order of magnitude better than what we saw 3, 4, 5 years ago. And we've got countless examples wherein we compare an actual BDC rep or salesperson at the dealership compared to an AI generated response. And in a lot of cases, a BDC rep is not following OEM guidelines. They may not use the customer's first name. They may not thank them for interest in the vehicle. Or, God forbid, they're making typos or grammatical errors. AI doesn't do that. It will follow templates perfectly, always spells complex OEM features accurately. So I think my answer there is, LLMs and AI have come a really long way, and the conversation quality in the vast majority of cases is actually superior to a human.
What dealership roles do you think are most at risk?
I don't think we really view it as what roles are at risk. I think what we really think the role of AI is giving a dealership the ability to offload those menial, repetitive tasks and allowing humans to focus on high value activities like being on the phone, building relationships. Let AI do the drudgery of sending the Carfax report or sending interior photos or answering questions about features, and let your BDC team, your salespeople, be on the phone, building that relationship, building that rapport. So that's really how we view it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw a good quote. It was like, you won't be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by someone that's using AI, by a human that's using AI, and is simply more efficient and effective. So I like that.
Yeah, I think that's it, right? We think generally, role types might change, and yes, sales reps will be working alongside AI models, but we don't view it as you can kind of get rid of half your sales team or anything like that.
So from what you're seeing so far with your customers, your business, how are consumers reacting to this? Right, like generally speaking, what is the sentiment with consumers? Are they, I mentioned like some of the kind of the naysayers or the devil's advocates, saying people saying, "Oh, I want to talk to a robot." Great, but from a consumer perspective, what are you seeing?
Yeah, from consumer perspective, I think they generally really appreciate the AI. If you think about what the traditional sales experience is like, if somebody submits a lead after hours, which is, probably 55% of total lead volume, the average experience is that consumer is not responded to for 12, 14, 16 hours. And that's in an age when, consumers are used to having access to everything at their fingertips. With AI, they're responded to immediately 24 hours a day to get their questions answered. On the service side of the business, also, you'd be surprised how many people actually thank the AI for proactively reaching out to them, letting them know that they're probably due for, a routine maintenance 30,000 mile service, for instance. They view it almost as, kind of a service concierge, if you will. They're always, the AI is always in touch with them. They know they're doing what's right with the vehicle, and they're generally appreciative of that. In regards to, just quality of conversation, you'd be shocked at how often we have countless anecdotes where people are asking, can I speak to Mia? She was so amazing. And it turns out Mia was actually, the AI that they were conversing with.
Shut up.
Consumers generally really appreciate it.
Is that the name of your agent, Mia?
The dealer can set it. Yeah, they can set it to whatever they'd like.
They can set it.
That seems to be a common one. Probably, it's got AI in the name or what have you. But they can set that up however they'd like.
Have you had any issues with confinement or just kind of keeping the agent on the right track?
It's a great question. We get asked all the time by OEMs and major dealer groups, ChatGPT is available. Can I just, plug that into my website? And our response is, vehemently, we would not recommend that. GPT unbridled will flatly lie about your business, which can have, catastrophic reputational ramifications, number one. Number two, an off-the-shelf LLM is not typically really designed to drive business outcomes. It's designed to be kind of a novelty and have a back and forth conversation. Its real goal is to elicit a response and have the highest response and engagement rate possible. It's almost flirtatious in that way, if you will. It, again, doesn't drive towards business outcomes. So we believe it's really critical to have an optimization layer that's trained on automotive-specific data, that prevents those hallucinations and drives towards appointments or lead generation or whatever those business goals are.
Mm-hmm. So dig in one level deeper there, right? Because how are you doing that then? If it's not just, ChatGPT, how are you doing this?
Yeah, I'd say generally, our solution, our AI suite is purpose built for automotive retailing. So we use a variety of different models. We're model agnostic and use a kind of proprietary mix of, our own homegrown models as well as foundational LLMs. We're constantly training our model via our own enhancements, prompt engineering, and really fine tuning based on more than 6 years of auto industry customer interactions and over 100 million conversations. And, really what we focus on is providing a tailored and customized platform, for automotive retailing that, again, prevents hallucinations and drives towards business outcomes.
So you mentioned business outcomes. What do you think is going to be the best application for AI generally? It's funny, like we're talking about like AI in the dealership. Go back a decade ago, even 5 years ago, it was like, well, maybe not five, but maybe a decade ago. Like what, right? The dealership, it's has this like stigma as not being the most technologically advanced industry and whatnot, and here we are. And so, what do you think will be the best application as you kind of see this through?
Yeah, I think fundamentally, it's conversational AI, both from a chat standpoint, but also an asynchronous SMS and email response tool that's designed to, number one, answer questions. So, again, our AI models can answer somewhere around 11,000 different intents, answer to 11,000 different intents. So it can answer questions about features, the Carfax, interior photos. And if you really think about how long that would take a human being to respond to one of those inquiries, it's probably an average of 3 to 5 minutes by the time you go find the VDP page, download the interior photos, attach them to an email, and then send that out. So I think number one is generally answering questions. Number two is long-term follow-up. I think that applies to both sales as well as service. On the sales side of the business, there's a high percentage of customers that are just in the market for a protracted period of time, and not for bad reason. They get maybe, they submit a lead and then they get busy at work, or they go on vacation, or what have you. Most dealerships don't have the ability to follow up with somebody for more than 3 or 4 days. With AI, it will follow up relentlessly for 51 days and stay engaged and keep that dealership top of mind when that consumer resurfaces ready to buy. And again, the main goal of this is really driving towards an appointment, whether that's a sales appointment or a service appointment. Again, with AI, we can set an appointment directly in the CRM system, push a calendar invite out to the consumer. That's one thing dealerships love is, again, with 55% of leads coming in overnight, a lot of mornings they'll walk in and they'll have several appointments that were made completely hands off by the AI during closure period.
That's incredible. So when you say so you're saying driving towards appointments, where are you seeing right now the biggest impact being made with your, the way you're partnering with dealerships and your technology? What is making, would you say, the biggest impact? And again, you can define biggest as the biggest delta from prior performance, whether it be profitability or customer experience. But I'm curious to know, like, where are you kind of seeing the what the movers and shakers here?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the sales side of the business, we're seeing around a 20 to 30% lift in appointment set rate, meaning, leads divided by appointments will increase that by roughly 20 or 30%. And a big reason for that is with AI, we're touching each lead 4 times more than without using AI, meaning the outreach where we're doing text and email with AI is creating 4 times the number of touch points. On the service side of the business, we're seeing a huge amount of incremental RO volume. It's an average of around $45,000 per month in incremental, sort of comparing before versus after adopting service AI of incremental RO volume. One sort of tangential benefit we didn't necessarily expect going into this is because we're doing proactive service outreach, we're also seeing on average roughly a 30% reduction in inbound service phone call volume, which we all know is a massive problem in the industry with most service calls going.
It's the worst. Yeah. You call the dealership service, you can never get in touch with anyone.
The bad customer experience. You spend $50,000 on a Lexus or whatever, and you try to call in for your first or second service, and they don't answer. So yeah, AI can play a critical role in doing that proactive outreach and allowing somebody to schedule completely online.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gotten a little bit better, but it's definitely one of the biggest pain points. Dude, you know what I wanted to ask you? I didn't want to cut you off as you were explaining earlier, but I had no idea that I just looked you up on Crunchbase. You guys raised $130 million.
Yep. So we originally mostly bootstrapped the business. And then in 2018, we raised a growth equity round with a group called Wavecrest Growth Partners. That was a $22 million growth equity round. And then in January of 2023, we raised a $104 million round with Silversmith Capital Partners. Silversmith were also the lead investors in Dealer.com. So yeah, a total of roughly 130.
That's amazing. So you guys are clearly well funded. Because the follow up question I was going to have for you was, you mentioned you made a couple acquisitions over the past couple of years, and I was going to ask you how you funded that. And what are these acquisitions that you made?
Yeah, so in May of 2021, we acquired a business out of the Republic of Georgia that was previously known as Pulsar. That is now what we've converted or rebranded as our sales AI product.
Wait. How did you find a business in the Republic of Georgia? How did this happen?
Again, yeah, we came up with this AI thesis. We're always talking to our dealer council about, what are the highest ROI products? What are companies that we should look at, partnering or integrating with or, potentially acquiring. And so we jogged this AI thesis by them. And some of them had used, competitors. They'd used, a Conversica or companies like that. One guy in the room said, I've tried them all. We believe in this AI, category. And there's this company called Pulsar based out of the Republic of Georgia. Their AI is 10x more intelligent than anything else that we've found. And so in the middle of COVID, my co-founder and I flew out to the Republic of Georgia when there were still, curfews going on, and we had to be home by 6 o'clock at night. It was very difficult to even travel into the country, but loved the team and really were blown away by the technology. We've grown that team over there from 25 or 30 at the time of acquisition. It's now around 75 people. Most are PhDs, just amazing AI technologists.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, it's so random. It feels like it's, kind of came out of nowhere, Republic of Georgia, but that's cool that you actually executed on that. Did you go into this, having like an acquisitive mindset, right? Because founders typically, not always, but it's a bit of a transition process. And granted, you were investment banking background. So did that sort of, kind of give you that drive to think about, acquisitions and where potentially a bolt-on or, another company can help you accelerate your growth?
Yeah, I think so. And again, stepping into a different category, right? We had not done much with artificial intelligence. So, would we have acquired, a merchandising product? Probably not, because we had the in-house competency to build that. But when we're, extending into a completely novel new category with different, technology stacks and infrastructure, it certainly made sense. That said, we have a very high bar when it comes to acquisitions. I think there's lots of, well-funded companies like mine, and they try to buy anything in their segment and slam these companies together and find as much G&A synergy as possible, and that's really not been our model. Again, we will only buy something if we really think it completes that or gets us closer to that North Star of using AI to manage the entire customer life cycle and personalized touch points throughout the ownership journey.
So we're clearly making lots of progress here as an industry. I've had lots of conversations about this topic and where can technology truly deliver, this next level experience. I love how Doug Eroe mentioned this on one of my previous podcasts, president of Longo Toyota. And he said, look, he's like, for me, he's like, I just care about, what business problem do I have and how can I solve it? And if AI or technology is that solution, then so be it. When you see the continuously evolving nature here of AI playing into the dealership, right? What is the end game? What does that look like, and where are we headed ultimately?
Yeah, I think it touches on what we talked about earlier, which is AI managing that entire customer life cycle and doing all asynchronous or chat based communications for a dealership, from again sales to F&I and accessories to service and eventually vehicle acquisition. And again, really what we believe is that will not only help a dealership maximize consumer lifetime value, but really will have second order benefits reputationally and from a customer experience standpoint. If you think about the average customer experience today, to your point, they make the second largest purchase of their life. They fall in love with their salesperson. They buy a vehicle. Chances are they never hear from that dealership again. Or if they do, it's just kind of an HTML marketing email, very non-personalized, versus with AI.
Yeah. No one wants that email. No one wants to get that email.
Yeah, exactly. With AI, you've got Mia reaching out to you constantly, reminding you about service, checking in with you. How's your vehicle life cycle going? Again, just from a customer experience standpoint, we believe it's materially better than what most dealerships do today.
So based on your data and your insight, where are you seeing customers the most frustrated with the dealership experience?
I think it's, generally it's canned messaging and responses. It's, inconsistency in regards to timeliness or, the thoroughness or accuracy of answers. Again, lacking personalization, almost tone deaf to customer needs with, kind of generic invitations to come to the dealership and test drive. And, like we talked about a second ago, the outbound is often generic offers, impersonal messages, kind of lowest common denominator messaging. Whereas with AI, again, you've got perfect one-to-one personalization and tailoring.
When you think about dealerships doing this at scale, and when I mean at scale, I mean just a couple years out from today, is this ultimately right? So we know that it makes dealerships more efficient, but I think what we don't know yet is how does it work with licensing, right? Like, what is that? How is that going to evolve? And when I say licensing, right, the data has to come from somewhere, and you have to pay for that data. So will we be in the situation as an industry, do you think, where we're going to get into some like licensing issues where it actually ends up being more cost prohibitive because, you have to pay for this data and then that kind of cancels out the added benefits? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say fundamentally, I think to your point, we're just scratching the surface of what, an AI enabled business world and society will look like in the next 3 to 5 years and, what we can achieve. We, believe that the advent of large language models are really on par with the invention of the personal computer. In regards to licensing, I think one thing people don't necessarily realize about working with a company like GPT is if you expose that to your own training data or CRM conversations, it becomes a part of the public domain for that specific model, which again is why we've taken the approach of kind of siloing off our own open source versions of models that we then can train with our 100 million conversations. So in terms of how cost prohibitive it will be, I think we've seen nothing but things getting cheaper, right? Like OpenAI initially came to market at, let's call whatever X price. And, a couple months later, they, cut that by an order of magnitude, it gave basically 90% discount. We've seen that kind of across the industry. So I think, generally, as we see in technology, things will become more efficient and more affordable. But I do think there's, important things to take note of as it relates to data ownership. And again, not exposing proprietary training data to the public domain.
All right, so dude, I want to shift gears. When we were doing research, I read that you recently partnered with ACV Auctions. Again, also timely. I just had Joe Neiman on the podcast, who's a co-founder. He's no longer there, but he was a co-founder. Anyways, the first thing I think about when I hear an AI automotive company and ACV Auctions partnering, I think, are we going to have buyers anymore, or like, are we going to be buying cars using AI? So tell us more about this partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the setup for this partnership is, we believe over the last 3 years since COVID that dealerships have woken up to the need to control their own destiny as it relates to used vehicle acquisition. I think, they realized during the, COVID days that supply chains are brittle and therefore you can't really rely on your OEM to supply you with new inventory. And you realize that, auctions are unpredictable and carry pretty high fees. And so what we've seen is a huge number of dealerships are standing up their own car buying centers or their own car buying strategies. The problem is car buying leads are notoriously low engagement, right? There's a huge number of, tire kickers, price checkers, people that just want to know if they're in an equity position. So it's difficult to get humans to even call those leads. That said, it's the perfect market or the perfect segment of leads or opportunities for AI to go after to really filter out who the real sellers are and serve those up. And so what we've done with ACV is partnered with their Clear Car valuation appraisal tool, wherein our AI will respond to all of those leads, drive them down the funnel, drive them towards setting a physical in-store appraisal appointment or completing the virtual computer vision based appraisal that ACV Clear Car offers today. So yeah, we're pretty excited about it.
Before we wrap up, I want to get your take, right? You're building some really great tech here to, just improve the overall experience with dealerships as you think about the next 5 years coming out of this, less so on the tactics, but how do you think ultimately this, pushes our industry forward? What does that look like given the way, just the speed of technology adoption? Every dealer that I speak with now, mostly the larger ones, of course, but, they have someone dedicated just to this. And I think it's also another reason why you're seeing a lot of dealers who are, selling out to bigger dealers or, consolidation, right? Because the industry has gotten more complicated. There's just no doubt about it. And to keep up with this stuff, I think, technology is obviously making it easier for the small guys to compete with the bigger guys. But nonetheless, just understanding and kind of, figuring your way through all this has been, quite a mission as it's gotten more sophisticated. What do you think that those next kind of 5 years look like for our industry?
Yeah. I think some of it's, what we touched on earlier, which is, we think dealerships will go from being massively human capital intensive to really, AI and automation enabled. And, I think to your point, right, all of the large publics have an AI strategy today. And, we really believe that the mom and pop dealers should be investing alongside them. And, solutions like what we offer are equally, if not more applicable to a mom and pop dealer than they are to a large public. So, but yeah, I think again, what we're going to see is AI and automation enablement kind of across the spectrum from mom and pop dealerships all the way up to enterprise groups and OEMs.
Any juicy acquisitions on the horizon that you're thinking about?
We're always looking for stuff. Absolutely. So please do reach out if you're interested in, discussing or doing a demo or, looking at a partnership. We again have a very high bar and, only want to buy things that, advance our strategic vision towards using AI to manage the entire customer life cycle. So nothing definitive today, but, hopefully in 2024.
I asked you earlier about all the products you offer, but what is your most popular product?
I would say our sales AI product that automates, sales outreach via SMS and email, responds to leads, answers questions, does the long-term follow-up, sets appointments, and really drives people down the funnel. So that is that's our highest growth and highest revenue SKU today.
Incredible. I mean, where does SpinCar? I mean, SpinCar was the OG. No more, huh?
Most distribution, but lower price point products. So yeah, that spin car is installed, or a 360 walk around product is installed in probably 6,000 dealerships across 53 countries, 53 markets today. Merchandising as a whole is still the bulk of our revenue and is certainly an area that we continue to be focused on. What we're seeing with merchandising, we still sell it direct to tier 3, but it's also being bought by manufacturers as kind of a top down mandate type solution. Because we think at this point, if you're not using a product like ours, consumers are starting to ask why. It's started to become, 360 imaging has started to become almost standard in the auto retail.
Yeah. I would agree with that. It's sort of become table stakes, right? People expect it. You need to offer it. Last question here. You mentioned you have a high bar for acquisitions. What does that mean to you? Because I'm sure, I met someone this weekend. They specifically brought up this topic to me. They're a listener of the podcast. And they specifically said that, they loved the founder, the acquisition questions. And so it's super top of mind. So I'm curious to know, what does that mean to you, right? When you say things that are aligned with our strategic vision and a high bar, what does that really mean?
Yeah, again, it's not our strategy to buy anything that ends in, .car or .auto. And even if there's no kind of product synergy, slam the companies together as a way to find incremental EBITDA. For us, it's, really finding strongly differentiated products with, durable competitive moats and things that drive an ROI for a dealer and ideally are viewed as mission critical. Not something that people throttle on and off or, can replace easily with a competitor, but something that's differentiated and really a core part of that, dealer's operating strategy.
You just mentioned something that came to mind. You said software that people can, replace easily. Did you have early on in your career Building Impel, especially when you were just a spin car tool early on? I say that in it's just one product, right? Very very easily for a bigger company to just come in and kind of squash you out of the market. Did you have any oh shit moments like that? Did you ever fear like, hey, are we going to actually make it? Did you have that part of your journey?
Certainly had the oh shit moments, no doubt. It's a roller coaster, absolutely, especially in the early days, especially as kind of a bootstrap business. That said, we pursued a competitive strategy wherein, we really focused on building out the ecosystem of integration partners. So we became the, exclusive integrated merchandising provider to many of the third-party listing sites, many of the peer-to-peer marketplaces. And that kind of allowed us to box out competition wherein competitor only functioned on a dealer's website, but our merchandising products syndicated to this huge network of classified sites. It was difficult for a competitor to displace us because of that.
Well said. Well said. It's a great strategy. So speaking of partnerships, which I think, by the way, is a very smart strategy, right? You're right that does sort of box out competition, especially early on when you're a tech product, which is, pretty easily, it's commoditized in a way. What about manufacturers? Like, have you done any partnerships on the manufacturer side?
Certainly, yeah. We're seeing manufacturers start to adopt our merchandising products and kind of mandate them top down, but more specifically to AI. Over the last year, we've seen a lot of manufacturers coming to us. They see that tier 3 communications happening at the dealer level are brand non-compliant, and they're asking us, instead, can we establish AI-based communication protocols at the tier 1 level, cascade those down to tier 3 dealerships, and maybe as part of that the OEM gets some insights back about what tier 3 consumers are asking about, or what those tier 3 conversations look like. So we've definitely seen demand there. The second area, is manufacturers have invested a lot in consumer data platforms and really see AI as a key activation to those CDPs. AI is not restricted in the same way that most CDP activations are. It's not restricted by limitations of an ad network. And so it really allows for full kind of unbridled personalization powered by an OEM CDP.
Mm-hmm. And when you say they're mandating the products, what specific products are most important to the manufacturers right now?
I think, again, because 360 views have kind of become table stakes, we're starting to see that be either mandated or heavily incentivized at the manufacturer level. We're also seeing our feature tour product be just built into OEM certified websites. So again, that's our product that helps articulate using rich explainer content OEM features and articulate, again, the difference between adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist, for instance, by embedding, rich multimedia content directly in the website. So that's something that, again, is just being integrated as part of OEM programs.
Well stated, my friend. Devin Daly, thanks so much for coming on. If anyone's interested in learning more, we'll put the link in the show notes below. Impel, check it out. Devin, this was really fun. Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.